the last 20 years, the world has experienced a revolution in information technology. With recent advances in fiber optic broadband connectivity fueling dramatic growth and innovation worldwide. But as the rest of the world has been reaping the benefits of this growing internet-based global economy, the nations of Eastern and Southern Africa have been largely left behind. For millions of Africans who want and need to connect to the rest of the world, the wait is over. Seacom has finished installing a new undersea fiber optic cable system off the east coast of Africa. A mega infrastructure project, Seacom has run over 17,000 kilometers of lightning-fast fiber optic cable from the tip of South Africa to northern Egypt.
This is going to be a revolution. People can't believe. Until they go, they see the ships coming, they see the ship laying the cable, they say, ah, it has happened.
We needed to increase the bandwidth through which people could then communicate faster and cheaper.
Once you are connected, you are linked to the world.
We are going straight to fiber. It's a leapfrog toward the future.
Everything just happens at the click of a finger.
We're now going to play the A game. We're going to be on the global playing field.
Small businesses, financial institutions, medicine, education is going to transform the productivity. It's going to transform the way people are doing business. It's going to transform the trust that people have in each other.
Over 76% African-owned, Seacom began with a vision to provide equal and open access to inexpensive bandwidth for millions of users across South and East Africa. In November 2007, Seacom partnered with TE Subcom to begin construction of its state-of-the-art undersea fiber cable.
When we speak about what's happening with the internet and the leaps and bounds we're going through, it ultimately comes down to the success of fiber optics. The ability to move data and video and voice across what is a strand of glass.
Today, the world connects to the internet through a series of undersea fiber optic cables which transmit high-speed data to countries around the world.
The objective of Seacom was to connect this last part of the world to the global fiber optic systems, because amazingly enough, this is the only portion of the world that is not connected to fiber optic cables.
Over 40% of the connectivity of Africa is in the countries where Seacom is touching, because they touch South Africa, they touch to Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, Djibouti, right up to Egypt and to India and Europe. So today, through Seacom, we can be proud and say we are now beginning to join this world of knowledge economy, this world of digital economy, and this world of information economy.
Ultimately, Seacom will connect 20 countries. And for East African nations, access to the Seacom cable will mean that they must no longer rely on ineffective and highly priced satellite technology for their communication needs.
System that we have now by using satellite is unreliable, is very expensive, it doesn't have enough capacity, is not quick enough. And one of the obstacles to developing countries is that the cost of doing business is very high, because if you want to telephone, if you want to send an email through the satellite, you pay a lot more money.
Connections with cable has been absolutely essential for the development of a country. And over recent years, when other countries have been developing their communications and businesses, Africa, unfortunately,
has missed out. Certainly the east coast of Africa has missed out really since the telegraph era days.
Starting in the late 1800s, ships began laying undersea copper telegraph cables, delivering the earliest global communication systems across the world's oceans.
There was no rules to follow or anything in those days, so they had to start with a blank piece of paper and design cables, lay them in the deep oceans, and overcome all the hurdles that were there. What the Victorians set up in the late 1800s is carried on very much today with regard to the practice of cable laying on board ship.
Aided by over 100 years' worth of technological advancements, Seacom's fleet was nonetheless faced with the same daunting task as their Victorian-era predecessors: to safely lay thousands of kilometers of continuous, delicate cable onto the treacherous and unforgiving seafloor.
When commencing a project like this, the timing and the logistics are very, very important. So the organisation is tremendous and it's got to be right.
3 ships were deployed to lay the Seacom cable. 1 ship began in Egypt and headed south. A second started in India and worked westward. The third and largest ship, the Tycho Resolute, began in South Africa and travelled north.
Tycho Resolute, which is carrying the largest load for us, is just an amazing vessel. Ultimately, it's going to deliver one of the most important pieces of infrastructure for East Africa.
The Resolute is a technological marvel. Carrying a crew of nearly 100 seamen, the ship stores over 6,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable in its massive holding tanks. As the Resolute travels north, this cable is pulled up from the hull, out of the back of the ship, and safely onto the seafloor. Meanwhile, smaller branch cables are laid from terminal stations on the coast, extending to approximately 3 kilometers offshore. The Resolute must stop and pick up these branch cables off the seafloor in order to connect them to the main cable.
If we cannot get it, we have to try it again. All the day, all the night.
A grappling hook is used to pick up the branch cable and bring it on board.
Very well done.
Once the branch cable is recovered, it's brought into the ship's laboratory, where engineers splice it to the main cable.
When you talk about splicing fiber optics, you're talking about an exact science.
The fiber moves in, the electricity goes off, basically about 6,000 volts. It actually makes a liquid puddle, and the fibers are forced together.
There can be no degradation in the signal when they're connecting these 2 pieces of glass, these 2 pieces of fiber optic. Fiber cannot even be a nanometer out of place. To do this on a moving vessel is impossible. So you have to keep the Tycho Resolute completely stationary while engineers are doing the splicing work.
After the connection has been checked and verified, the newly spliced cable is enclosed in numerous layers of protective plastic molds and metal armor designed to withstand the harsh conditions found hundreds of meters beneath the sea. Weighing over 1 ton, the completed branching unit is then brought onto the ship's deck and safely laid onto the ocean floor. This process of joining the cables proceeds until there is one continuous system that's integrated with the global fiber network. One by one, country by country, East Africa will begin to reap the benefits of Seacom's fiber optic cable.
In the past, without Seacom, we were isolated. We're no longer 5,000 miles away from Europe. We're in Europe at the click of a button. and in LA and in Palo Alto and in New York.
Seacom has provided a highway along which people can travel.
The shift here is not just going to be a quantitative one of having ability to move large quantities of data, but being able to do radically new things that you couldn't do in the past.
The world is going to be surprised when it sees how Africans can explode on this new highway and begin to do things that will astound the world.
The people who are going to benefit are mostly the young people. I wish I was young, I could go back again.
Once the access to information is there, it's going to be exploited at much higher rates than we ever predicted. And there's a huge excitement that just because Africa had horrible connectivity yesterday, that they could have the same connectivity that North America or Japan has tomorrow.
Seacom has managed to connect the eastern seaboard of the African continent. It's a life-changing project. This is very good for education, for health, for e-government, for commerce, for business, for the whole economy of the African continent.
Get excited about the internet. It is an absolutely phenomenal tool, and it will change everyone's life in here. I guarantee you,